righty, time is now 10 minutes to 8, and at 10 to 8 it all gives me a great deal of pleasure to get around the area and to talk to all the people who know what's going on. The man that knows what's going on in Dubbo is Mayor Mathew Dickerson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kerry. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
There you go. So you know what's going on, which is pretty good, isn't it? Eh?
Apparently, yeah.
Now, okay, committee meetings last week, very important committee meetings though, weren't they?
Yeah, these are the standing committee meetings, and essentially what we do is we let information feed through those committees. It gives the community a bit of a chance to hear what's going on, and then no final resolution is made from those meetings until we go to council in 2 weeks' time. So it's a good chance to discuss things and have a whole range of issues brought forward to the community.
Right, okay. Now, the other thing at Wellington, which is of interest to me at this stage, because I'm a little bit of a sceptic, I've got to say, right, to be honest, about the battery thing and stuff like that. But you're going to be finding out a whole lot more about this at Wellington, aren't you?
Well, one of the things that happened at the committee meetings last week was we had some presentations by a couple of groups that are going to be doing some things in our area. And one of them was from a company called Ampyr, A-M-P-Y-R. And one of the projects they're doing is building a battery in the Wellington area. It's basically there's a renewable energy zone that encompasses Wellington there. So already people are seeing huge amounts of solar panels there, huge amounts of wind turbines, 33 wind turbines in one farm, another farm of 97 that's being built. And one of the things that people keep talking about is, oh no, when the sun's not shining at night, you can't have power with solar panels. Or if the wind's not blowing, oh no, what are you going to do for power? Obviously, a really important part of that whole mix is having some way of evening that power out. And so batteries are exactly what's used there. So when there is excess power, middle of the day, for example, then that battery will take some of that charge that's being generated. And then in the middle of the night, when you need that power, the battery can release that. What's really interesting, Kerry, that I find intriguing about this is that one of the largest solar farms that we've got in our renewable energy zone is owned by BP, who is obviously normally associated with oil. And this particular battery project is backed by Shell, which obviously is traditionally associated with oil. One of the real interesting things there is that BP and Shell will be doing some sort of deal for the excess solar to be fed into the battery and then the battery to feed the excess back to the grid when it needs to. So here we have a collaboration by two major oil companies in renewable energy. So if you're not convinced, and as you say, you sound like a bit of a skeptic there, if you're not convinced that things are happening in this renewable energy area, then when you've got two major oil companies getting together with renewables, you know that there's a movement there.
I'll be interested to talk to you after this because obviously you'll be going to inspect this, will you?
I've actually been to inspect the area where the battery will be installed. Obviously the battery's not there yet, but I have been out to the solar farms and the wind farms where they're already in operation as we speak. In fact, Kerry, this renewable energy zone around Wellington is going to be incredibly important for New South Wales. Once we get this wind farm that's already basically underway and then the next one done, we'll actually have the area around Wellington will be producing enough power to power 1.35 million homes in this state. We've only got 3 million homes in this state. So we're getting up around, say, 40% of all the homes in this state will be powered by this little area around Wellington. So quite incredible.
Yeah, and also a big boost for the local economy too as well, isn't it?
Well, that's the challenge. That is the real challenge, Kerry. That's the one that we've been working on with some of these companies. In construction, it's fantastic. So this presentation by the battery company last week, we talked about that. And there's around up to 100 jobs, for example, for 18 months. For Wellington, that's a great injection. They're good, high-paying jobs. So there's lots of money that'll be injected into Wellington. But the problem is once the construction phase finishes, then you've probably got one or two people there. And what we're saying to these companies, the solar, the wind turbine, the battery companies, is we want some lasting, ongoing injection into the economy, not just lots of work when there's construction and then it drops off afterwards. So that's the real challenge. We're working with those companies with a couple of different ways, Kerry. One is to see what community benefit funds we can have there, so money that they put into the community for a range of projects every year on an ongoing basis. But also we want them to look at their employees. We've now all learned during the pandemic that we can get away from the office. So instead of having people employed in the CBD of Sydney where rent's expensive and people have to take an hour to get to work each day, why not have some of their key personnel employed in offices in Wellington or in Dubbo, for example?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely coming, I have to say. because, you know, I mean, people have started to get used to being home, I might add, as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you're going to be home, why not sit at home in a beautiful area like a Bathurst or a Dubbo or a Wellington? Why not sit there rather than sit there in the smog-filled central of Sydney or have to put up with all that noise and smog, and you've got to spend 10 minutes just to get out your driveway to go around the corner to pick up some groceries. So there's so many great reasons to live regional, Kerry. It's the smart ones like you and I that know that. We've just got to convince some of these people in Sydney of that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Always a breath of fresh air to talk to you, and I appreciate your time, and we'll catch up. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Kerry.
See you later. Mathew Dickerson there, Dubbo Mayor.